Hey everyone. Welcome to the podcast Stories by Mind Mavericks. And I have a very special guest today with me. She is Elena Domby, a PGI consultant, the CEO of Infinity Mindset Academy. She is my mentor and guide as well. The lady with the electrifying smile and the heart of pure gold. I want to bring forth today her journey and how she made it to becoming such a successful PGI consultant and being the CEO of Infinity Mindset Academy, and also finding so much of time to help so many people despite her having such a busy schedule. So, Elena, firstly, let me welcome you to the show. How do you feel
Thank you very
being
much.
here?
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for this beautiful and kind introduction. I'm really looking forward to this podcast episode of yours. You're doing such a great job with it. And I'm very enthused to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, everyone looks at you, as the successful PGI consultant who is at the peak of her success, but no one knows, the journey behind you coming here. So today we want to find out a little bit how Elena became the Elena that she is today. So let us start a bit about with how was your childhood? How was your life with your family? What is the kind of background that you had? Please share that with us.
Absolutely. I do believe that there's always this misconception, especially with success, when people get to be successful, depending on how people define success. I think the greatest definition that I have found, I have not found it. I got it from my dear mentor and coach, Bob Proctor. God bless his heart. He made his transition at the beginning of this year. But I had a great privilege and honor to work together with him. And he borrowed it actually from Earl Nightingale, saying that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So as long as we're moving and we keep creating whatever we want our experience to be, we are a success. And so, yeah, at the point where we start to achieve things that we have desire, people often are not really seeing what's happening behind the scenes. And I think it's important that we give this perspective as well, and that people understand we all have our own path. We all have our own journey. That is not to be compared. But the truth is that success does not come overnight. And there's a lot of work behind it. There's a lot of adjustment. There's a lot of healing from my point of view behind that, and to even be where I am today. But if we start with the beginning, and we shall definitely start there, I think a few things about me. I was born in Romania. I am living in Germany now. It's been about 17 years now that I live here. But this is not where I was born, obviously. And until I was like 7, so to say, everything was perfect in my life. I had a great family. We had all the comfort, all the things that we wanted. We were 4 children. And then when I was 7, my parents divorced, separated first and then divorced, which was a very ugly thing. It was not nice. It was not a friendly way. They got separated, but this was already filled with a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma, a lot of sadness. It's also not an easy thing. And it was almost like coming overnight, which obviously that's not the point, and it's never like that. But yeah, as a child, if you never have that perspective, it feels like you wake up one morning and then all your life and what you knew to be it's damaged, it's different, no? And so my parents divorced, and that was probably like the first shock. We used to do very well, but then there was the extreme. All of a sudden we had like nothing. I remember my parents lost a lot of money that they have invested back then. And all of a sudden we were poor. And we lived with our mom. There was a period where we were separated, 2 and 2 children with mom, 2 children with dad. But then at the end, we got all with our mom. And so she was working a lot, very much. She was working like 3 shifts, morning, afternoon, and night, to be able to raise us, to be able to contribute to our education and all that. But it's tough, living in a country as Romania, which was not the richest country, a lot of corruption. It was quite tough for her to go through all that. And in addition to that, my mom is an alcoholic and has been ever since I can remember, I mean, after being 7, prior to that, we did not know or saw any signs of that. But after that, it was quite obvious and it was moving in the wrong direction. So I think that was like the first shock of my life, so to say, that everything changed like almost overnight. And from living a good, comfortable life, we went into the polar opposite of it, being poor and having like experiences. I remember we were quite young, and we got to eat from the social canteen of the city. Like that's a help you get if your social situation or your financial situation, so to say, is like really, really low, because that's like a free service. And you can imagine like the lowest class of the society was going there to pick up their food every day, and so were we. And I still remember that this place was very close to our school, and it was so embarrassing for us because my mom couldn't always make it to pick up the food, and sometimes we had to do it. And obviously it was very embarrassing because somebody from the school might see us, or our friends, and we didn't want nobody to know about it. And so that was like the first part. We used to move a lot because we were not really having money. So we lived from one social home in the other. And we were basically breaking into these homes. And then once they found out we lived there, they would put us out. Then we would move to my grandmother. Then later we would find a new home. We would move there. Maybe another year later, they put us out again. So that was like the story. Like we were moving from one place to another continuously. Like there was no stability. Now, having a mom which was sick and unfortunately still is, being the fourth of 4 children, not having all the things that were enough. We were living in, I think it was the highest, like the most criminal neighborhood from the city where I used to live in. And so it's not very difficult to get into the wrong friendships, into the wrong environment. That was the easiest thing. And as we know, these environments also give you something. Like all these although it's very negative, you still have this feeling, what I believe I was craving for back then. Sorry. To thank you, to belong somewhere. I mean, I do remember, and I know this for sure. Sorry. No, all is well. It might come back, but for now it's all good. That I mean, my mom didn't really have time, no, and we were like 4, and we all had needs, and we weren't having the money and school and all that. I do know that. I mean, as a child, what do you want more? You want to be loved, you want to be seen, you want to be acknowledged, you want to be admired, you want to belong somewhere, and that was all missing at home. So it was quite natural, so to say, and easy to go down the wrong path, getting into the wrong friendships. And then the darkest, the most negative period of my life started back then. I started all these crazy friendships, and we were stealing and doing all kinds of criminal things, a high negative criminal energy. And probably that's what led to then the next episode, which was even more traumatic. When I was 12, I've been taken away from home. I was with a friend back then, and I remember that I would always be in love with someone, and that was like the demeanor, and what also helped me understand that actually my search for love, I was always in search for love. I wanted to be loved, I wanted to share love, I wanted to experience love, I wanted to give love. So that was like the demeanor of almost all of my experiences. And so I got to know this guy, and he was the brother of a neighbor of me. And then one night we were there, and we were laughing and we were joking like as usual. And this other guy came by, which I did not knew, and by force they took me with them. Later I got to find out that that was one of the guys from a ring of human traffickers. And it was that night that I was abused in the worst ways possible, physically, emotionally, sexually, the entire night. And then after that, kept there through blackmail and all kinds of shaming shaming statements, like basically I was guilty, like it was my fault. This is what I've been told, that this happened to me, and I would get to be exposed, and that would absolutely ruin my life, and I would get a lot in trouble and all that, which I didn't want it,
And you
obviously.
were
And so,
just 12 years old at that point of
yeah,
time. Yeah?
I was 12 years old at that time. And I think that tells a lot. I mean, what can you really consent to with 12? What do you know when you're 12? You don't really know much. I mean, a child at 12, it's still a child and has the
Yes,
mind of a child, no?
true.
And being beaten up the entire night and abused the entire night, I mean, that's a huge trauma, no? And it leaves marks on you and on your entire perception, and it scares you. It scares you, and you're afraid of all these people that position themselves as who they are, and so
Right.
you have no escape, no?
Mm.
And so that was the beginning of the nightmare part of my life, which today I do see as a blessing. I truly see it as a blessing, and I've learned a lot through all of those experiences. The experience did not end there. It cost about, I don't know, 8 to 9 years of my life, something like that. Yeah, 8, I could say. When I was 20, I got out of all that, but the experience was not that easy, because like that was the first group, and then later on I was sold or given away or traded. I don't even know what the deal behind the scenes was. But then I was sold to somebody else, which was even a bigger player in this entire community or rings of human traffickers, which then took me abroad. There was like the abuse got way worse. I truly, I mean, I know this today. I didn't knew it back then, but the person or the guy that took me away from the first one was for sure a psychopath. And I mean, not in a judgmental way, but as a fact. I mean, you would never know when the next episode will start. You would never know when you would get beaten up or assaulted or abused. You would never know. So I think all these qualities that I have today, they were like something that I've learned back then. And I mean, it's not the best way and the most pleasant way to learn those things, but obviously life teaches us, and the experiences that we have in life, they teach us too. And so some of the most valuable strengths and qualities that I have today, I've learned back then. And so although the story seems to have gone worse, because now I was taken abroad. I was still a minor, so I was around 15, something like that. I mean, most of the time I was not even aware where I really was. What do I know? I mean, I've never been abroad. I never saw outside of my country anything. So most of the time I would not even know where I am or what's happening. And so then the journey started, and in the moment it seemed worse. It seemed that the things would get bad and worse, and the abuse was more intense, more often, more present. But the good part was that this time I was abroad. So I was not in my country anymore, and that opened up a new perspective to life, to world, to what there is around us, which for me, obviously, and all those girls that were living in that environment or were being held hostage in that environment, we had like a very limited view upon life, upon what we're allowed, upon what not, upon all those things. But still, to be abroad in the big world, so to say, it gives you a different perspective. And that was what caused me then, when I was 18, and we also were moving a lot. Obviously, there was a lot of criminal things happening, a lot of dangerous things happening. There were many situations where I thought that I'm going to die. This is it. This is the end. It never happened, and it's a good thing. But then when I got to be 18, I started to wonder, and I started to think, and I started to feel more and more the pressure of what's happening in my life and all that, and started to unconsciously, more or less, it was more unconscious than it was conscious, to plan my escape.
I was just
And
about to
then
ask that. Did you ever
exactly.
think of escaping from this situation?
Obviously, I never thought of it because I never thought that it was possible. So consciously, I never thought of it.
Right.
Subconsciously, I was always hoping. I was hoping every day that this is just a bad dream, that this
Mm-hmm.
is a nightmare, and tomorrow I would wake up and everything would be all right, especially in those moments of fear. There was a lot of fear, because you never know what's going to happen next. You never know where you're going to land. You never know where you're going to sleep. You never know how things are going to move on. And so there was always the hope that things will get better. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you want to understand that these people and all um, these criminal environments, like, they know what they are doing and how they are doing it. And this entire manipulation, there's a beautiful story of a baby elephant. And I want to share that because I think comparing that is exactly what happens with people that and women and girls and even boys that get into such environments. There's this beautiful story of the baby elephant, which, when it's a baby, um, gets like a chain around their leg so they cannot walk away, they cannot move
Right.
on. Now the baby elephant gets to grow and grows and grows, and it becomes this giant elephant which has so much power, but the chain is still there. And
Right.
the elephant never escapes because they've learned that they cannot. And although the elephant could do that now with all the power, all the strength, and this huge giant creature could do that, easily break the chain and be free, it
Right.
never does. The conditioning
Right.
is there. And
Yeah.
so it is with all the people that are in such environment. Like, leaving, it's not as easy as it seems. There is so much fear. I mean, you're terrified, you know that
Yeah.
they might kill you, they might kill your loved ones, all that could happen. Like, there is so much fear, and these people have such a power over you. Like, it's crazy, and it's all a psychological thing. So although I was never conscious, I was too afraid to think about that, I always was hoping that this nightmare would at one point end and I could get to live a normal life. I never even knew what the normal life was, but there was always living in this very alarmed situation. And so you get to be conditioned that you are not able to live on your own, that you are stupid. I mean, these are just some of the things that I've been told: being stupid, ugly, the trash, the garbage of the society, not worthy, not valuable. These are the things that are planted into you every day, more and more, in every way possible, in a kind way, in a very brutal way, like a very violent way, in every aspect. This is what you are being told. And so you grow up, because that's what happened. That's how I grew up, you know? A child that grows up like that, or a person, any person, to be told every day how bad you are and how you are guilty and it is your fault. I remember having many nights and many days where I would just go within myself and I would question, what have I done? I must have done something so bad and so terrible to deserve all this. Like, it's bad. I mean, you get to believe that. And it's the same, you know, like the baby elephant, which is now a grown elephant and could escape just like that. It doesn't, because it does not know that it can. And so it is with every person. You get to be conditioned that you are not worth, that you're not valuable, that you are wrong, and it is your fault. And so I looked at myself from this very, very guilty point of view. And I thought that I am guilty and it is my fault and that I caused it. And every beating, every abuse, again, I have caused it. I must have been such a bad person. But I mean, what do you know with 12?
But you were just a child who was looking for love, affection, and an identity, right? Who got lost
Exactly.
the wrong way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it happened so fast, no? And so then when I became 18, there were new girls coming. And you then start to look around, and I looked around and I was very, very unhappy. I mean, most of the time I was. But then this phase came where I thought, okay, but now I am an adult officially by law. I am an adult. And so along came the next guy, which I fall in love again. Now, this guy, this was now the third one, this guy was a local. So now, even if in the present moment or in the situation, in the story, everything seems like it gets worse and this girl is never going to get out of this, it was actually quite good because now this person was local, was from Germany. I was already in Germany and knew how things were going on around it here. And he promised me that he would take me out of that situation. And I believed. I mean, I was in love.
Right.
And, you know, often I talk about this, that it was the fact that I kept being in love, as a matter of fact, was hoping to be loved back, hoping to get to the point where I would be, where I would experience love, even if it was for 5 minutes, to feel in some way important, to feel in some way valuable. It's everything that you can give to a person that's been told all the time that they are not worth. And so I believed, and it was good that I believed because, you know, later on we're going to see that the same thing that got me into and kept me into is the thing that got me out of this entire situation. And so we, together with the guy, we planned out, this was not a human trafficker anymore, he was a drug dealer. So the things would get a bit better. It doesn't sound like that, no? but it was, because then the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, all those things started to get less and less. The moment I got out, we planned it, and I ran away, so to say, with him, or he took me away from that environment. And these abuses, although they were still there, like beating was there, and emotional and mental abuse. And I think throughout my entire life, like the physical abuse and the sexual abuse, although that's very, very heavy and ugly and painful, the emotional abuse was probably the hardest thing to go through, because when you are humiliated and you are treated like basically like trash, and you start to believe that, that's where the biggest pain is coming from. You're not able to look at yourself in the mirror, you're not able to see those things. And so here I was now 18, escaping those old patterns with a lot of fear. Nobody knew about me anything for about 2 years, like no member of my family, nobody. I was too afraid to put them in danger. And got out of it. And now I was with this new guy, which basically had pretty much the same interest for me to continue with what I was doing, and him to have a good life, promising me the love and all that. I think today they call them lover boys. I think that's what they call them. However, I was in love, and I figured that it's not working. Like, it was not working. I was not happy. I was not loved back, although I hoped so much for it. And so I came up with the idea, and that's where I first saw the movie The Secret. It was another girl that showed me that movie, and I saw it and I thought, wow, do you know what they are telling you in this movie? They are telling you that you can have anything you want, that you can attract it to you and all that. And I thought, I want to have a child. I want to be a mom. And I came up with this idea because I thought that's the only way, or it was the only idea that I had to finally experience love, to finally share love, to finally give all the love that I knew, I was not consciously aware, but I knew is within me. That was my purest desire, to love. Now, although I've been told that I'm not going to be able to have children, throughout this entire dark time and period of my life, there were pregnancies and abortions, and some, or one of them, got really complicated because the way and the place and the environment where it was made was not really an official one or a clean one. And so I got a lot of infections, and then based on that, they told me that I would probably never get to have children. And so even this idea of being a mom and having a child was so far away because I believed that I'm not able to.
Right.
And yet some time later I got pregnant, and I think that was one of the most happy moments of my life. The happiest moment of my life was probably when I mean, since then I have more and more, and I still have today more. I couldn't choose one. But probably when I became a mom, that was one of the happiest and saddest moment ever. But I was very happy to know that I'm pregnant. I mean, my dream comes now true, and it becomes a reality, and I'm going to be able to have this little child and love the child and care about the child and share all this love. But the relationship was not working, and obviously once I got pregnant, I was not interesting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of abuse through the pregnancy as well. And one day, when I got beaten, I decided that was it. And
Okay.
I got help.
Mm.
And you see, this is what I'm saying. Like the awareness has expanded, like the system, to get to know the system from the country that I was living and all that
Mm.
has changed. Like it was not that limited, and there was a possibility for me to get help. And
Right.
so I went to a social workers agency,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this social worker that helped me
Right.
get out of there as well. And I was in a shelter for abused women.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived there for a while until I had to go to the hospital. My daughter came 3 months earlier, and before that I was like a month in the hospital. There was a lot of stress, and so yeah, no wonder that happened. But got into the hospital later on, got my daughter. She was completely healthy. She still is completely healthy. Although even there, I've heard the craziest stories of what could happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
But she is completely healthy and a great, great, lovely girl with a strong personality and an amazing character. Um, very strong, I have to say. I mean, she had to go through that time where she was way too early and she was not even ready. She
Premature.
was not even finished as a
Yes.
baby.
Right.
But then she came to the world, and then I had another purpose to live. I had another focus. Now I was not alone anymore. Now I had to
Right.
take care of this little creature. And obviously the entire focus changed. Now I had to search for a home, and obviously the social worker was along my side all the time. Have to search for a home and a place for us to live, and get that done in some way. I had no friends, knew nobody, had no papers or anything like that. Like we started from nothing, and pregnant. And we got to the point that 2 months later, when my daughter came out of the hospital, we had a home to live, a bed inside, and something to cook. And that's where we started the new journey, the new life as a mom. And it was probably a blessing. Not probably, but for sure it is a blessing, and it has
Blessing.
changed very much in my life. Yeah.
Right. So, before we move ahead with this change in your journey, you said you had siblings as well, right? So, during this entire period, were you in touch with any one of your siblings? Who was the one who was very close to you? And what was the kind of bond that you shared? And did anyone come looking for you? What happened?
Yeah. No, I was not. I was not keeping much in touch with my family, especially from the time where I left this entire wing of human traffickers. There was too much fear from my side that they would be in danger, so I did not. But
Mm-hmm.
then later on, like about a year or 2 years later, I think it was like 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
1.5, 2 years, that nobody knew about me. I did call my family and wanted them to know that I'm alive and I'm okay. Um, and then later on, I had like obviously contact, not that much. I mean, we're not talking every day or every week.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, I started to speak to my brother. I mean, I was the youngest of 4 children,
Right.
and I had a brother. He made his transition when he was 20. He drawn into the Black Sea. He was drawn or he died by drawing in the Black Sea.
Mm-hmm.
He was 10.5 months older than me, so we were like the closest, so to say. Although throughout the childhood, I was very close to one of my sisters.
Right.
And then I have my older sister, but there was a period where I started talking to my brother and we shared like some of the things. I mean, my entire family does not know my story to the day, like not all the detail of it. I think whenever they are ready, they will they will find out about it. But we started to speak back then with my brother, and he was not the happiest guy. He was like a loner. He had many, many friends, but he was very lonely. And I think that's what brought us back together. Sorry
So
for that.
he
That's
too
my dog.
was struggling with his own emotional turmoil, I would say.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm not
Hmm.
sure how loud my dog is, but
No, that's fine.
yeah, that was, I mean, all of my siblings, I think, had a hard time throughout the
Hmm.
breakup. And then one of my sister had very early a child, and my brother went his path, and another sister as well. And but he was suffering a lot for sure. He was the only guy in the
Yeah,
family, the only
yeah.
boy. We were all others girls, and so I think he had his own path to share, and he was quite a lonely person. And so that, I think that's what brought us back together and getting in contact. And I remember we were speaking on the phone like over 2 weeks, almost every day, and we shared from childhood and what was happening in our lives and all that, until the point where he said like the most beautiful thing to me, and that's something that I still keep very close into my heart. And so remember he saying to me, you know what, throughout our entire childhood and everything that was, you were my best friend.
Hmm.
And that made a huge impact. And we were making plans, and there was the summer vacation coming, and he was planning to go to the Black Sea. He loved it there. He was there almost every summer, and he was working there and being there with friends. So it was like something really awesome for him. And we were planning like when he's coming back,
Right.
he's going to come to Germany, and we are going to somehow start all over again and all that.
Hmm.
But then he went to the Black Sea, and that's when he died. He made his transition there, and he never came. So that was like, I was 19 back then. I was still trapped in this life, but it was like not the worst one. It was like the last phase of it. And obviously I went home for the funerary and all that, and it was like horrible. I mean, it's horrible. You don't believe it, and I didn't believe it for a very long time. I would dream about the fact that he is alive, and this was just a dream again. I think that was a, a coping mechanism that I have learned very early, to hope that everything is just a dream, and that I might wake up to a world where everything is all right, where everybody's there and we are all good together. But obviously that was not the case. So yeah.
Yeah, and it happened at a time when you were still in that phase, and a bonding had just started, so you were kind of getting into that trust and love and care for each other as a sibling, and then
Absolutely.
of course you just lost it. All right, now coming back to your journey as a PGI consultant, you said you watched the movie The Secret,
Mm.
right? So what is the kind of impact that it had on you, and what made that shift, and what made you think that you should be heading towards this direction?
Mm. I saw that movie and I was fascinated. I think I was always fascinated that there must be something else, that everything just is. I mean, Romania is quite a superstitious country in every way, and all kinds of alternatives thinking. And so I was never into it, but this
Mhm.
movie was fascinating. I mean, they were talking about the fact that you can have anything that you want, no? And I thought, well, if you can have anything you want, I wanted to be a mom. But and I did it. I mean, that happened. But this movie was like with me all along, all the time. I mean, I watched that movie like 1,000 times, thousands of times. I mean, I could speak along with every speaker on the movie.
Yes.
But it didn't really change much. I mean, I knew about the law of attraction, obviously, because that's what they are talking about. So that was like, no, the basics. And I thought that you just have to wish it and then it's going to come. Today, I know that there's so much more than that, but that's what I thought at the beginning. And so now I had a child. I was alone. I was a single mom. Later on, my family started to come to Germany slowly, one after another. My mother came to support me with my daughter and all that. Things started to change. I got back into finishing school, which I have not done in my country, but this time with a total different model, because here you can learn a profession and go to school at the same time. And that enabled me to still get my degree. As a matter of fact, I even skipped a level. I mean, I was committed. I was committed. I was a mom. I had a new purpose in life, and I had hope, and I had the possibility to share love, even if I have not had anything else, like in terms of material thing. I didn't have money. I was just getting by, but I had what I so much wished, and that was like giving me so much power. So got back to school, learned the profession, got my degree, never got to work in that profession, like it was the gastronomy area. So I never got to work in that profession. I learned it. It helped me. I learned great skills in that. See, I think this is important that we understand. I mean, obviously, we can look at our life and pity ourselves and feel sorry about ourselves. And for the longest time in my life, I had this victim mentality. I was a victim. And even if I always resisted the fact that I was a victim. I had this victim mentality. Poor me, and something must be wrong with me, and I believed all that garbage, and I felt guilty. I mean, I had this stamp on my forehead, this invisible stamp that told me always that I am guilty and it is my fault and it's all that. And so as long as we see ourselves as that, we cannot move on in life and create something better. And so that was something that had to change. And what I meant to say was that, for example, even this qualification or profession that I was learning, although I never work a day after that in this area, it brought me the greatest skills. My entire story, although it was one filled with pain and it was not the easiest thing to go through, I learned there some of the greatest strengths, courage, the fact that I can understand people. I mean, you have to get so sensitive, especially when you're in such dangerous situation. You have to learn to read people so you can keep yourself alive. Everything else is a huge danger. So some of the greatest strengths, which at some point were defects, I mean, it's all the polarity, no? Positive, negative, were found or were developed throughout this entire story. And so then I got this qualification, and after I was done there and I learned this profession and all that, I'd never worked there before, but I got into a different area because somebody told me that maybe the social work would be something for me. I speak foreign language, so that could help a lot of people. So I thought, yeah, why not? So I got to do another qualification, and then I started to work in social work, where I was helping people from Romania with all the papers of children that were actually delinquent. So they all committed some sort of crime, minor things like stealing and such things, most of the time really out of hunger and all that. And so they were too young to be punished. And so we would work with them and with their families to get them on the right path. So I loved that. And it was something that I was very dedicated to. And so everything evolves. And now I think in that job, obviously I had the opportunity to use all those qualities that I have learned throughout the years. And I did that for about 4 years. Yeah.
Great. So when did the actual encounter with Bob start? When did you find out that this is what you want to do? And then we'll come back about, how did you actually meet the love of your life?
Yeah. Now we're coming closer to where we're at. Long story. Yeah. So as I said, the movie The Secret was always there, and it was my go-to movie on every bad day.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I have not had until that point in time any relationship that was healthy or in any way normal.
Right.
After I became a mom and I was a single mom, I think I had one relationship which didn't really work out. And so I gave it up. I was alone, and that was good. um, at that point in time to focus on the things that are important. But I always watched the movie The Secret and I had a bad day. And so I started this new work and I met this guy. And this is not even that long ago. We're talking now for about something around 6 years ago, when this new chapter started. I fell in love again. I fell in love. And you see, the love is something that was a constant in my life.
In life, yes.
Search of love and sharing love it was something that caused me a lot of hardship and pain.
Right.
But it also was the same thing that helped me be where I am today. And it was also the love that helped me heal. And with all the qualities or the character traits or the patterns that we have, habits that we have, at some point, they have supported us. They might not be useful anymore, or at some point they were not useful at all, and they might support us now. I think it's our perception that needs to change there. That if we see that we can turn these qualities, this character traits, this whatever it is, patterns around and look at them from a different point of view and use them to our own benefit, they're going to help us grow, and we can all do that. And there's the law of polarity, and that's what the law of polarity states, that everything has an opposite. You cannot have good without bad, you cannot have cold without warm, you cannot have love without the opposite of it, which is, in my perception, at the core of it is fear. And so you cannot have the one without the other. It's just a matter of how are you looking at it. Are you looking at it as something that might lead you to lose, or it might lead you to heal, to win? And so obviously in every stage I looked at it from a different point of view. But now here I was, 26, and I was falling in love again. I had no skills whatsoever. I had no idea how do you deal or how do you handle the relationship. I was hurt. I was traumatized from my past, although I was quite able to live the normal life that I always hoped for. I had it now. And so, but I had those patterns that were all against me because I was hurt so many times. I would just close, I would shut down all my emotions. You had no possibilities to come to me, to reach me whenever that would happen, whenever danger would be there, that I might be hurt, I might suffer, I might be disappointed, I would shut down. And so I met this new guy. I was never able to have a conflict at that point in time. I didn't even knew how to carry a conflict. So I would just shut down and I would put a mask on my face. And the mask was always, oh, all is good, all is well. I'm okay. Yeah. And obviously I was not. I never was. I remember he used to tell me that I'm like an ice princess. He just cannot reach me anymore. It's all so cold. I get so cold. And so one day we had an argument, or it was not, I wouldn't argue, but we can say a heated conversation. And then he said, you know what, I'm going to sleep over. We can talk tomorrow. We can sort this tomorrow out. I said, yeah, sure. All good. Have a great evening, blah, blah. My mask was on. And so I did what I always did when I had a bad day. I watched the movie The Secret. But this time everything was different, because this time was the time where I really got to see Bob. When I really I was aware of what Bob was saying. Until then, I saw him with my eyes, but I never really listened with my emotions. I was listening with my ears. But you, as a matter of fact, you hear with your ears, but you listen with your emotions. And this evening, I was listening with my emotions. And what caught my attention was Bob saying, you gotta wake up in the morning and kiss yourself. You gotta love yourself. And my first reaction was, oh, why would somebody do that? That's selfish. But I was curious. It intrigued me a lot. And so next day I got to order all the books of Bob. I mean, one after another. I didn't order them all in one day, but I was ordering one book after another. Like I was going through those books and through all the videos that I could find on YouTube of Bob. Like I was crazy. I was fascinated. I was so shocked. I thought, wow, why hasn't anybody shared this with me before? I mean, I was at a point in my life, I was not happy. I was not able to have any relationship. I was barely earning money to get by. I mean, it was okay to pay rent and buy food, but I was living from Christmas to Easter to my daughter's birthday just to set some money aside to be able to buy her a gift so she wouldn't notice. I was having terrible migraine headaches at that point in time, like sometimes for half a year, ongoing headache, and every 3 or 4 day, like a migraine attack, horrible. I was not happy with myself. I didn't like myself. I was still conditioned that I have no value whatsoever, that I'm the garbage, that I'm guilty, all that. And so I started to question, I started to think, what the heck? I mean, I went through all that bullshit, through all that I was going through in my life for this, just to get to be now an adult and to, okay, I got the normal life that I wished for, but this is it? Is this it? I thought it would be different. And so I started asking, and you know what they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I feel like I was ready. I was ready to listen to Bob at that point in time. And I did. And I was watching the videos and I was so fascinated because he said that we are the highest form of creation. And I thought, never told me that. I mean, everything that I heard so far was that I'm bad, that I'm guilty, that I am not worthy, that I'm ugly, that I'm stupid. Nobody told me that I'm the highest form of creation. Now here was this guy saying all this stuff that we can have anything we want. And I remember what Bob said was, if you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it.
Yes.
And that intrigued me a lot. I thought, what if he's true? What if what he's saying is true? I mean, who am I to question that? And what do I have to lose? I had nothing to lose. But if he was right, and if he was telling the truth, I would have a lot to gain. So I listened, and I listened every day. And then for Christmas, my partner gifted me 2 self-study programs from Bob, which were in German. And it happened that Christmas I was alone at home sick, and I studied. And it was fascinating, and I was loving it. I loved Bob. Like, what he was saying made so much sense. There was this feeling of resonance. I know today, I didn't know back then, but I felt like, yeah, this is true. Like, you have that feeling when it makes sense. Everything what he said made sense for me. And so I thought, I'm going to put this to work. I'm going to put it to work. So obviously I set my first goal, because this is what Bob said I should do in all of the material. And I set my first goal to double my income, which I did pretty fast. Obviously in this time I was I went to the Paradigm Shift. I mean, I didn't go physically there, but I streamed the online event, the Paradigm Shift, which was always a weekend event. And I would be there all night because of the time zone difference, and it would finish like at 3 a.m. and I was like, wow, I would be so energized and so vibrating, like, all this is true. And I never knew anything about it. It was so much to take in.
Absolutely.
And so I went into my first coaching program. I did not have the money to do that. I was already in debt and I had no idea how I'm going to do it, but I managed to do it. That's another story of its own. I managed to do that, and I got into my first coaching program. I borrowed the money to do that. Bob said, if you have to borrow the money from your grandmother, borrow it, because it might be the last time you'll have to do it. And I didn't borrow it from my grandmother, but I borrowed the money to be able to enroll in that coaching program, and I did. And it changed my life, and it changed the path that I was choosing. It took me about a half a year to get to the point to really write down my goal, what I really wanted. For about, maybe it was like 4 months. Maybe it was not a half a year. I just said, because that was the program, you have to come up with a goal. And I said, well, I would like to have my own business in the field of personal development. I mean, I didn't know what I was saying, how that's going to be possible. It was out of my reality. It was so far out there, but it was the only, that was how far I could go at that point with my imagination. That was out of my reach to have my own business. I mean, who am I to believe that I could have? I was so shy. I was lacking confidence. I thought everybody is better than me at that point in time. I couldn't even speak in meetings. Like we would have meetings at my work, and I knew that I knew the things, but I wouldn't dare to speak, because if I would try to, I would have like this knot in my throat. And I thought, if I'm going to say a word, I'm going to start crying, and everybody's going to see how stupid I am. So don't embarrass yourself. Just shut up. Let this meeting pass and go do your work. And so I was like nowhere near to where I am today. And that did not enable me to really ask for what I really wanted. So I just come that far to ask for, I would like to have my business and in the field of personal development. So it took me like about 4 months, 5 months to get the perception of myself, which is our self-image, which from my point of view today is the basis of everything. If you look at the story that I got to live, I believed that I was a trash. I believed that I was guilty. I believed all that. And that's what kept me stuck in that life.
Right.
Because how could you, with those beliefs, ever imagine that the society at large would accept you in any way? No. No. And it had to change. I had to start changing that perception that I had about myself. And that there is maybe more to me than what they told me. Maybe I can do it. Maybe I do have some abilities or talents. But I started from scratch. And so it took me a while until I got my self-image to the point where I was daring to ask to be a consultant. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to work with Bob. And that was my dream. I could not believe that that's going to be ever possible. I mean, how could this little girl from the corner of her couch even can dream about that? Like Bob was for me like God or something. But I wrote it down because he said, write it down. And so I wrote it down and I wanted it. And I did what I was told. I followed the instructions. And then a half a year later, not even that, I became a consultant. And obviously with that, my big dream came true. I was able to work with Bob and do what I love and help other people with this material because it helped me. My ever first goal, even before going into the coaching program, was to double my income. I followed everything to the letter and it happened. It happened within the first 3 months. And that got me even more into studying because I thought, back then I thought my only problem is the money. If I would just earn a little bit more, all the other problems will swipe away. Obviously, that was not the case. That was never the problem. The problem was deep rooted within every experience that I had. And that's what I had to heal from. And that's exactly what this material and thinking into results has helped me to do. It helped me to get to where I am. This is the material that we are working with. And it still helps me to create the experience that I'm living. And so I was so intrigued by it. I thought everybody should know about this. Nobody needs to live the life that they live. I mean, this guy is telling the truth and it works. And if everybody would apply it, they would live in a better place. So I wanted really very much to work with Bob because I believed in this material and I still do. And it changed my life and it changed my entire perception about myself and people at large. And it changes millions of people's lives every day. And so I wanted it. I wanted to do this. I wanted to share this material with everybody so they have a better life, so they understand that it doesn't matter where you were in your life. It doesn't matter what you've been told once. It doesn't matter how much suffering, how much pain you've experienced, because it's not going to affect where you're going from here. Because the only thing that matters is what you're doing now. Now, obviously, you have to let go of the past. You have to let go of the past. You have to let the dead bury the dead. Because if you keep letting that to control you, you're going to be stuck forever. And that's exactly what took me so long to get out of that life, because I was buying into all those perceptions and beliefs about myself, which were not true. But I thought them to be true. I thought that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of having a good life. I'm not worthy to be loved. I'm stupid. I believed all that crap. And so obviously it took a long time for me to get out of that life because I was never encouraged or supported in my life. I never had that. So I am strong or confident in any way. No, I had to build it up as I went. And so, sometimes they say that a person cannot change the world. Yeah, a person can change another person's world. And that's what the social worker that
Powerful.
supported me did. She never made a decision for me. She always helped me make decisions. Great lesson that I've learned there.
Yes.
Now, then Bob came along. He changed my life completely. My financial situation, the way I work today, all that has changed so much. The relationships, I have the most happy, joyful, connected, trustworthy relationship today. And I know that this guy is going to be on my side, where I know this. I just know it. I know it, that we are meant for that. And it's the most supportive and loving person that I could have. I have a beautiful daughter that's growing more and more. She's so aware. She's so brave. She's really so smart and special.
Right.
But every one of us is special. And I think that's what we need to get into our heads, because that's where I was going off track. I did not believe that I'm special.
True.
No, nobody ever believed that I was special. I was a black sheep in the family. I was the person that was guilty. And you need to let go of guilt. You need to how in the world could a 12-year-old consent to all that? It's impossible. We're not there to consent to that. Some of the mistakes that we have done in the past, we made them because we had no other choice. And we need to learn to forgive ourselves and to let go of the past.
Right.
Forgiveness means to completely let go of, to abandon. And you can do that best if you find a place of compassion with yourself. That's what I did. I found that place of compassion with myself. I looked at that little girl within and had compassion with her and cried with her. And for her, it was if it was needed. I wanted her to know that who I am today can take care of her, that all that is gone, and that we now have the opportunity, and we have, all of us have that opportunity every day to make a new decision. Where are we taking our life from today on? What are we going to do out of it? And this is exactly what this entire material taught me: to be strong, to be confident, to have my own business. Today, I'm building a great team, and you are a part of that team, and amazing people along the path. I mean, we're creating a great vision, and we are helping many, many people with thinking into results.
Yes.
This wouldn't be possible without this material. And so obviously, to cut the story short, I became a consultant. I had ups and downs there. I think that's going to be enough for another episode. But that was one of the best decisions. And thinking into results is obviously the program that we work with, and the material that we work with has completely changed my life. Completely, the lifestyle, as I said, the kind of money that I earn today. I never even thought that I'm going to earn this kind of money.
Right.
The way I work, the people. I have friends all over the world. I work with people all over the world. It's beautiful. It's such a gift. It's so, so beautiful. And I know that if somebody like me, who had nothing and thought of themselves to be a nobody, could do that, anybody can. Anybody can. This is the formula that we are teaching. I mean, people often tell or ask me, okay, what's the result that you got and blah, and I can start sharing, the money and the business and the relationships and the clients and all that. And it's great, if you're looking at the material part,
Right.
no doubt about it. But if I'm looking at what was the biggest thing for me, especially, was the healing.
Yes.
To really understand, because to heal means to become whole. Now, to become whole, to be complete, you have to be who you truly are.
Absolutely.
And so this entire material that we are studying at PGI, in the Infinity Mindset, Thinking into Results, is helping people to understand who they truly are, to understand that there is infinite potential within each one of us. We just need to learn to bring it to the surface and to utilize those talents and abilities, which sometimes we are really even ashamed of. Because we've been conditioned that way. It's all in the conditioning. Just like the little elephant, it was conditioned to be hostage, to be held hostage forever. And so are we. We are conditioned to believe that we cannot, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy enough. And it's all a bunch of crap. It really is. Because the truth is that each one of us has infinite potential. Each one of us is very unique, and each one of us is the highest form of creation. For the
True.
longest time, I thought that I'm a reject. I really thought that. I've been told that many, many times.
Hmm.
But I got to learn, and this is something that Bob taught me, that God creates no rejects. Everything that God has created is perfection. There's
Absolutely.
perfection within each one of us. Our
Right.
job is to become aware of it, to get to know ourselves, the true
Hmm.
self,
Hmm.
and to bring those talents and abilities to the surface that are in alignment with who we are. So
Hmm.
then we can create on the outside the kind of life that we want. It's mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing. And everything that I went through, I mean, I remember I used to be very stubborn. I mean, you cannot be any other way when you're
True.
going through all that period of time, no?
Hmm.
But it's the same quality. I mean, being stubborn, it's the polar opposite of being persistent. Now, if you want to be successful, you have to be persistent.
Persistent, yes.
Now, the difference between the two is that being stubborn, you have a closed mind. When you're persistent, you have an
The
open
open
mind.
mind.
And so I got to understand, oh, wait a minute, I have the quality within me. It's just I'm operating from the negative polarity. I
Right.
just need to move to the positive polarity. And
Right.
so it is with every one of us. We have already the resources. We have already what it takes.
Yes.
We just need to shape it and to direct it towards who we want to be in the life we want to live.
Absolutely. And then in this entire journey, I think healing was the most important part, because there's this quote, and I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but they say that healing is very important, because if you don't heal completely, then you will cut the people who genuinely love you. So it's
Yeah.
very important to heal completely within. Wow, your story has been so inspiring. It's been full of a roller coaster ride. It went into the dark tunnel, and then it came out with this beautiful love that you found. You finally became a mother. You became a successful consultant, a successful CEO. It's nothing short of an inspiration. And I hope this inspires each and everyone who is watching, that not to blame the circumstances. And all you need is just that one decision to make the change into your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I do believe that we need to learn to take responsibilities, the polar opposite of being guilty and of feeling that we need to blame someone or something, of being ashamed and guilty for everything that we've been through. We can solve that by taking responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a lot more questions, but I think I'm going to save them for the season 2, right? So thank you so much for taking time out and sharing these beautiful experiences, story, and your beautiful journey with each one of us. I hope each one of them get inspired to be successful and look within themselves to grow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, if I hope that someone feels inspired by the stories and can take the true meaning of it, because I'm not sharing this story to impress anybody, but to impress on anybody that would hear this, that if I can do it, they can do it too. Anybody can. What I did is something that everyone can do. Sometimes we just need the right tools and the right people to guide us in the right direction. And so obviously that's my purpose. That's why I dedicate my life, because I know it's possible. So thank you very much for having me as a guest and allowing me to share my story here. And I hope that someone can benefit from that and obviously is inspired and takes some actions to the betterment of their life. And obviously, if there's any support needed, I'm always there, more than happy to support and to share.
Forgot to mention earlier, like from being in that part of your life to going and actually meeting the legendary Bob Proctor and actually working with him. I mean, like, who would have ever thought that, this kind of a time would ever come into your life, where you would actually interact with, like, so many people were looking for an opportunity to personally meet him and talk to him and work with him. And then you got to do that. So it's if it's possible for you despite these circumstances, I'm sure it's possible for any one of us who's watching this out there.
Absolutely. And it's It's one of our higher mental faculties, the imagination. I mean, throughout everything that I've been through, I remember that I was always a dreamer. I never stopped dreaming. And so that helped me, because that's where you build the desire. You build it in your imagination. And if you can build a desire, and everybody can, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. That's the evidence that we can do it. So whoever is listening to this, this would be like my last 2 cents on the topic. Don't allow anybody to steal your dream. Don't let anybody steal your dream. If you have the idea in your mind, if you can see it and you can dream about the kind of life you want to live, you can do it. I promise you, you can do it.
Thank you, Elena, once again for gracing my show, and thank you for your time and the energy you gave for this show.
Thank you as well, and have a great time.